Just let your
Welcome to another episode of Soul Shift Sessions. I am Kyle McLeod, your transformation architect, and I'm here with the illustrious coach.
Sapphire Star, your freedom and financial life coach.
And we are here to talk about persevering when the shit hits the fan. I gotta tell you, I'm not much of a cusser, so it's a little strange
I
for me to say
know.
it.
It's like bleep. Persevering.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel like we should do it that way. But anyway, I am looking forward to this because in the green room, we were talking about our perspective on this particular show. And I shared with you the type of audience member that that we were going to talk to. And you were talking about a completely different audience member, but they both really do apply for this episode. There are people that they have a plan, they have their goals, and then life happens. And then there are others that are, as you said, they're just existing.
Yes.
And I call that living life by default. You're
Mm.
waking up in the morning, you are going through this routine, especially now because, like, here in Jacksonville, school has started. So it's like you're waking up, you're saying, kid, get up. It's time for you to get up. Then you go to the other room, kid, get up. It's time to get up. Right. And then you go and you don't even think about it. You just go right to the kitchen, you turn on the light, you go get your coffee mug, you put change out the coffee or the tea for those of us who are doing tea. By the way, my tea is peach Bellini, no alcohol though.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like it.
was the last one in the house, so I hope my wife does not be like, "Who drank the last of the tea?"
Yo no sé.
You know what I'm saying?
No hablo inglés.
But I also have this peach flavored like syrup that's like made of all fruit, and I like to put that in there. I get it on Amazon, and it's not cheap, which is why I'm the only one who drinks it. So there's that. But going back to what I
I
was
will
saying,
share what I'm drinking.
I guess that you should have the opportunity to share, shouldn't
I
you?
should have the opportunity. Now, mine is
I
not
don't want to
as
make it all about me. I'm sorry.
okay. It's okay. I will remind you that it's about us
It is about us. What are you drinking?
and our audience. Am drinking good old tried and true green tea. I know it's not as exciting as the peach Bellini, but it's really all I have for now. So we're gonna go with it. I'm all about, and this is a testament to what we are talking about today.
Okay.
Persevering when bleep happens is
Yes,
I subscribe to KISS. Keep it super simple.
I love that. I do love that. That's the reason why I changed my video background. It was too complicated of a process to set up in the morning
Mm.
and be ready to roll at the time that we roll. I needed something a little more simple, and this seems to work out well. I'm still not 100% satisfied, but it's gonna do for now. Gonna
It's a
do for
work
now.
in progress.
It is a work in progress. It is. Running by default. That's what I found myself doing a lot of until I had heard about what it is. And so if we're not running on default, then we are living intentionally and actually paying attention from moment to moment. However, we do have those times where we wake up and life has already happened. Like life happened yesterday, and I have to wake up in this new reality where the stuff has hit the fan already. And it's, well, what do I do now? And if you're living by default or automatic, you just kind of take it as it comes instead of actually being the one to affect what's going on. Get a
Abs-
comment.
Absolutely. We have a tendency to be reactive.
Hmm.
And this kind of aligns with you're saying living life by default. We're not intentional. So when things do happen in our life, we're just allowing those things to then direct our path because we're just reacting to it. Honestly, I believe it should be the other way around. We should be more proactive in life. So when things do happen, we have a clear vision, we have a clear path. And even though we may get off on a detour, we're like, oh, I know the way to get back to where I need to go, even if
Yeah.
I have to make a detour really quickly. And that comes with having a vision, that comes with having a roadmap, that comes with, back to what you were saying, being intentional in our life and the things that do happen, because the reality is Murphy Law. If it can happen, it will happen. There's really nothing that we can do about that. But how can we take control of the things that we do have control over? For example, our mindset. We talked about that in the green room. What are we thinking about when we first wake up in the morning? Because I promise you, that is going to be a good gauge on how your day is going to it's going to go, because you set that, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So why not decide I'm going to be more intentional about my life, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna think about what I'm grateful for. I'm gonna think about how I'm gonna take charge of this day. One thing I absolutely love, and I live my life by these very two words, it's called carpe diem. Take charge
Seize the day.
of the moment. Your day. This is your day. Take it, own it, and run with
I can see you waking up like that too. I can see you waking up on 10.
it. I will say it's a practice. It's a practice. I wasn't always this way, guys. I promise you. I didn't just wake up like
You
this.
didn't
I woke
always
up
wake up on
like this.
10?
No, I promise you.
Is that what
This
you're
is a
telling me?
practice. This has been 15 years in the making. You know why? Because one day in my life, it was like 2006, 2007, around that time, my life changed. Bleep hit the fan. And
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. I was in a relationship. I was newly divorced. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was all over the place. And I was on autopilot. I woke up. I got my daughter ready for school. I drove an hour in rush hour traffic to get to work. I did my 8 hours. I clocked out. I drove an hour back home, made dinner, repeat. There was no intention, there was nothing. It was, "This is my life, going through the motions." And I'm like, I woke up one day and I said to myself, I'm like, "Is this life?" I asked the
Is this
question
all there is?
myself while in rush hour traffic. I asked, "Is this life?" Like, I was living, it wasn't just persevering, it was just living in shit, just. And the thing is, it's like that analogy, yeah, that analogy when they talk about the frog, right?
Mhm.
If you put the frog in the water and you start to slowly boil the water, he doesn't even realize that he's being cooked. Versus you throwing him in there while the water's already boiling, piping hot. But
Just
I was
jumping out.
like, my life was on slow boil. And
Wow. And how many of us actually are living that same experience? It's just a slow boil.
simmering, just, you don't even feel the
Yeah.
heat.
It for me, I had to and even now, like there are like I feel like there are things that we just have to acknowledge as far as what I'm gonna say next, because now that I'm not living life by default and I am living life with some intention, there are some things for me that I accepted as being truths for me. And one of those was that we live in an attraction based universe. And for me, I'm not a scientist, but I feel like I think in a logical manner. And it made so much sense to me when it was explained that you attract what you think about. And and it's not biased. So if I'm solely focused on the things that are not working, well, then guess what? I continue to get more of the things that are not working. It made so much sense to me because if I start focusing on the things that do work or will work or will put me in a place that's different than where I am now,
Mm.
if I focus on those things, then I should get more of that. But there is this one concept, or I shouldn't say concept, but I've heard someone say, don't you say that. Because if you say it, it's going to come true.
Mhm.
And now all that does really Star is Sapphire Star. I keep wanting to call you Star as your first name, and it's because I have certain friends where I call them by their last name as their first name. And for some
Star.
reason,
You can. Star is actually my middle name, and you can call me Star. It's okay.
okay, all right. I do now I feel better.
Nice middle name.
Okay, so given the fact that that we are in this attraction based universe, and if it comes up in here, it comes up in my head, then it's already in my vibration. I've already brought it in. Whether I say it or not, it doesn't matter. I've already brought it in. And so the thing is, that's a little freeing for me. And the reason why it's freeing is because I no longer have to keep things inside. And what I mean by that is, if I have a negative emotion, it doesn't matter if I say it out loud or not because it's already here. And so I don't want to focus on it, but I'm not going to deny the existence of it either. Because if I'm denying the existence of it, I'm just lying to myself, actually trying to bump up against what's already there. I'm not allowing what's already there to just be there, And so, because of that, if I feel any level of anxiety, I now can say, all right, I'm feeling anxiety now. And so, what's causing it? And sometimes it's not even a matter of me discovering or finding out what's behind the reason of the anxiety because it's already here. Thing is, how do I get to a place where I'm no longer experiencing that anxiety? And I feel like that's when the stuff hits the fan. It's all of that stuff, but we're so busy trying to push it away
Mm.
instead of just saying, okay, it's here. How do we move through this intentionally?
I have a question for you, Kyle.
I'm ready.
And I'm sure our listeners and our viewers, there's some of us that have the same question because we're throwing around this intentional, throwing it
Yep.
here. Like, what is this intention that you're speaking of, that we're speaking of? And where do you get it from? Do you got it on Amazon? Like, where we get this intention? What is this intention that you're
So
talking about?
if you go on my website, I've got it for $9.95.
Free shipping.
With free shipping, right? Intention for me is one, being present in the moment that I'm in. Because how often are you thinking about a future moment? How often is it Tuesday and you're already thinking about Friday?
Right there. TGIF. Let me write that down.
And this is why I feel that as adults, we're always saying time flies. And we're saying time flies because we're so busy looking for the next moment that we perceive to be it's going to feel better than this moment that we're not taking our time to enjoy this moment. And so for me, intention is actually being present in the moment and choosing how you are going to experience this moment. I drop it. I dropped it, didn't I?
You did. Mic drop. Like that.
Yeah.
I could not have said that better myself. That
And you say a lot better than me. You say a lot better than me. We're gonna call it what it is, Star. We're gonna call it what it is. You are more articulate than I am, madam.
I love that, and you said earlier, you was like, "I'm not a scientist," but I'm like, "I'm a scientist, and I got you. I got
Yeah.
you."
Yeah.
because, like you spoke of earlier, we have a tendency to only focus on our eyesight. We see.
Yeah.
And that then becomes our sole reality. And if we
Mhm.
don't see it, we don't think about it, we don't believe it to be true. However, as a scientist and a microbiologist, I can assure you there are things around you operating in a space that you can't see. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. In the laboratory, we use a microscope to be able to see microorganisms that you can't see with the naked eye. And I
Mm.
would like to challenge our listeners to start thinking about our mind sight because that's where the creativity, that's the lab. That's the creativity. That's where the magic happens for you to be able to unveil the things that you don't see, but believing that the possibility of it is just a matter of time before it comes into your eyesight.
I couldn't say that any better. I couldn't do it. Do you ever watch, like, science fiction television shows or anything like that?
Sometimes.
A long time ago, there was this show called Battlestar Galactica,
Mm.
and I'm talking about the remake version.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And towards the end of the show, there's this conversation that a robot, basically, who has feelings and all that stuff, he's having a conversation with, I think, his makers, and he is livid. He's livid because
Mhm.
he has to live a life with human limitations, and he knows that he's capable of so much more. And he's just from the vision standpoint, I don't like not being able to see the full spectrum. I don't like that. I want to be able to see everything, not with these human eyes that you gave me that are extremely limited. And the creator's response was just phenomenal because the creator's response was, we wanted you to find beauty in the limitation.
You're dropping them, Kyle. Like I need like a horn. Pew, 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 pew. You're dropping the gems. Like you just you're on fire today, brother.
Hey, I it's the topic,
You're on
the
fire
top.
today.
I thank you. Thank you so much for that. It makes me feel good when you give me compliments. Keep cover.
I got you.
And this is why, I used to feel a certain way about watching like television shows and movies and so on and so forth. And now there's so much art that you can find, even in a simple dialogue between two characters.
Mm.
And I'm always having the question of, does life imitate art? Does art imitate life? You know,
Say
I
that.
still don't have the answer to that question, but I can find how my life can imitate art.
Mm.
And I think that if my life can imitate art, that's where the fun can be. I don't need art to imitate my life. I don't need that. I need my life to imitate the art.
Yes, absolutely. I love that analogy and I love that perspective from the movie. And it just goes circling back to perspective and really how we react to things and going back to that proactive things because and there's this quote and I'm probably going to jack it up. And it talks about life is what happens to us, but a large part of that is how we respond,
Mm,
how we react to these things, because that's where our power is, because that's where our choice is. Sometimes we can't control what happens to us. We can't control when the shit happens. Can control is our response to it, how we react to it. That
yes.
is where we can control it, and that, my dear, is where the power lies because that's my choice. I can choose to be upset. I can choose to be distraught. I can choose to give up, or I can choose to say, "You know what? This has happened to me. This is what I'm gonna do as a result of it." And it kinda goes to what we'll get to down the line is how do you persevere specifically when shit does hit the fan? Or do you
Yeah.
have any advice for the listeners in terms of, okay, how to navigate when these things happen? Because we know they're gonna happen.
Yeah. I actually have you did spark a thought, and the thought that you sparked is when it comes to how you respond. As a matter of fact, let's just call a distinction between the reaction and the response.
Okay.
Because a reaction, the way I understand it, is when those buttons get pushed in a certain combination, boom, we explode. When I
Okay.
used to teach this concept to my participants, I would say, "How many of you have been in a relationship for 3 years or more?" The hands would go up. And how many of you know that they know exactly what buttons to push to cause a explosion? All
Mhm.
the hands go up. And I say, how many of you know what buttons to push to make your partner go boom? Hands to stay up. So we all know what the self-destruct sequence code is. Now, some of us will push them buttons all day long. And then
Yep.
others, you know
Right.
what? I know what those buttons are, but I'm going to choose not to push them. And I call those buttons the reaction. But the response, like I cannot respond if I am not aware that I'm about to have my reaction. So, in other words, if I'm not aware that I'm about to have my reaction, I just go ahead and have the reaction. But if I have a thought called, I'm about to F some stuff up right now. This person is 2 seconds off having me go. I'm aware that I'm having the thought. Now I
Mm.
choose to go ahead and have my reaction, which, by the way, from a male perspective, that reaction is based in I don't want to appear weak because that's one of the things that men struggle with. It's based in my culture as far as family as well as society. It's also rooted in past experiences. So my reaction is based in all those things. If those behaviors do not work in the moment and I realize that it doesn't work, then maybe I'll choose something else.
Mm.
When I was assaulted, there was a long period of I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. But when the cigarette touched my skin and burned it, well, now I'm going to respond. And even when I did respond, I was fully aware of my own actions at the time, which is
Mhm.
why I called it a response, not a reaction. Because if I were reacting, I would not have been able to control my body. So the response was, I'm going to make this person stop. And I'm also going to give them the option to stop. Call, are we done? Are we done? And if we're not done, fine. But I really would like us to be done now.
Yeah.
And those are the physical words that I actually said during the time. And I would not have been able to do that if I were in the midst of a reaction. And the reaction would have happened a long time, long before the cigarette ever touched my skin.
Mm.
You know, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's I hate bringing it up when it comes to my mind and I can't remember the title of it. But it has to do with a worry mentality.
Mm.
And somewhere in there, there's this thing about the warrior knows when the person has earned the right to have a fight.
Wow.
Like, you can't just go for a title fight with me. You have to earn the
Mm.
right for a title fight.
So true.
And that's how boxing is set up, right? You can't just run to the champion and fight the champion. You gotta work your way up there,
You
you
gotta get
know?
qualified.
You gotta be qualified, you know? And the only way you're going to really get a fight out of me is if you bypass everything and you physically assault me to the point where where I'm actually physically being hurt. Outside of that, the rest is I can use my words to go through this whole thing. However, even that experience, I can honestly tell you that I'm the one who brought that into my vibration.
Wow, that's powerful, and that's growth,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you've been through a lot of things in life where you didn't have this awareness, you didn't have this keen sense of who you are, and sometimes in life, we need to go through some shit.
Yes.
We need to this is the preparation.
Yes.
This is the developing. This is the setup, and I know we don't wanna go through it, and we're talking about persevering through it,
Mhm.
but the beautiful thing is we talk about gold must go through the fire. Diamonds must go through some pressure, and it
Yes.
takes time for that process to happen. And so I think a lot of times we're so focused on, well, how can I not? We're trying to avoid it. How can I not? However, if you have a plan and purpose for your life and you
Yeah.
have yourself set up in such a way as, you know what? Sign me up. Put me in the ring. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because this is going to get me to the other side where I have the keen awareness of how I'm going to respond, how I'm going to react, because it's shaping us. I sometimes say struggle builds character
Yeah.
that takes us and shape us. But also as we're going through and we navigating, we get better at how we're dealing with these things and understanding that sometimes it's a part of life and it's okay because we're having that attention, but we're also, like you talked about, being present in the moment
Yeah.
because there may be a lesson there. There may be something that we need to get through for us to be that phoenix, to rise up out of the fire, and in our analogy, the shit, and come out glorious
As something new,
as something new.
as something brand new.
Yeah.
It is that those experiences taught me a lot, because I had to transition from that victim mindset to like, all right, what's my part in this?
Yeah.
Right. And even though I did not deserve for it to go the way it went, it illuminated so much. Like it illuminated the fact that there are relationships that I have that these relationships are over. They're done, they're complete, and they don't need to be resurrected.
Yeah.
And it shined a light on multiple relationships like that. And I feel so much better now. Like I feel so much more peaceful now because I had this quote that says, "You didn't come for the struggle, but you did come for the contrast."
Mm.
Meaning that you did come to experience things that you didn't like and things that you do, because how do you know what you like
Don't like.
if you don't experience the
What
things
you
that
don't
you
like.
don't like? And to be honest, that is one of the most important things for me with my children. Because remember, my kids are not biologically our kids. And so my oldest is still in relationship with members of her biological family. And so I don't shield her from certain experiences that I know good and well are probably going to be negative experiences for her. But you gotta experience these things so that you know more about what you like. You need to go and spend time with these other households so that you can understand which type of household you like for your life. Our house is very peaceful. There's no fussing, no arguing, no fighting, and even with that, it's like, all right, let me refine it. No more name calling, right? Because it's fine when you're young, but then when you get older, it's not funny no more.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do name calling in this house anymore. And she doesn't have that in every household that she visits because she has multiple households that she'll stay in. And I can see it, like, I can see her developing and understanding what she does and doesn't like, and then when that guilt starts to creep in, "Oh, I should not have even gone there." It's, "Oh, oh, no."
Yeah.
You have to experience what you don't like. Like, you have to experience things that you may or may not like so that you are clear about what you do.
And
So the
appreciative.
fact and appreciate those things. So the fact that you had the bravery to go and you had the bravery to say, "Come get me," because she knows all you gotta do is say, "Come get me." I don't care if you are 10 hours away. I'm coming to get you, right?
Yes.
So So, she knows that she can say, "Come get me at any time," and she knows that it'll happen, and I'm not going to fault her for going to have an experience that I probably know is gonna be negative for her in the first place.
Yeah.
So, getting that clarity, like, you did not come for the struggle, but you did come for the contrast.
I love that. How can we find balance in navigating and persevering, being intentional, how we're reacting, and then just experiencing life as spirit? I always say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Like, how do you find, because I feel like that's where the piece is if you find the balance. Like, how do you
Yep.
find that balance?
Step number 1, slow down.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Slow down. We move our everything is moving so fast and life is moving so fast. This is why I love living in Florida, because when I was in New Jersey, everything is so freaking fast.
yeah.
There's no patience. There's no tolerance. At least in my experience. There are plenty of people that have patience and tolerance and live in New Jersey. Okay. But my experience is there's no patience, there's no tolerance, and everything is moving too fast. And so slowing down is the first thing. Actually taking account of the moment that you are in. Like right now, we are doing this podcast, and my mind is not anywhere else but being with you.
S-
I'm not thinking about what happened prior to us, and I'm not thinking about what's going to happen after this. Although I know I've got a full day, but being present in the moment, I think is the well, step one is slow down. Step two is be in the moment,
mhm.
right? And then the third thing is I'm trying to make it as simple as possible because I like simplicity.
Kiss.
The
Keep it super simple. That's what we started with.
third thing is choosing. Choose how you are going to operate in this moment. And in choosing, like sub 1A is don't be afraid to pivot. There are times where I will sit down and I'm like, I really need to just kind of just sit down and relax for a little bit. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put something on TV. If it don't feel right, I'm pivoting
Mm,
to something that feels, and you would not have heard me say that 2 years ago
wow.
because I was all logical 2 years ago. And I just did not like how people would put emotions on such a high pedestal. I'm 100% Vulcan here, put the emotions away and we going to use some logic. We're going to logic this thing out.
Linear
Right.
thinking. I'm the same way.
But the problem with that is it closes us off
Yeah.
from being vulnerable. It allows you to put on armor
Yeah.
that nobody can penetrate. And it's the leading cause of inauthenticity.
Wow. Powerful. Wow. And
So
and just a great ending to that when you say not leading with or leading and being in authenticity is when we're not allowing the feelings, allowing the vulnerability, we're not allowing our souls to shift.
we're not doing that. We're not allowing our soul to shift.
We're not allowing our souls to thrive. And that's what we're talking about here with Soul Shift
Yes.
Sessions about.
We Here's what you've done to the soul. You've told the soul, hey, Go get the back seat where you belong.
Or Imma drop you off at the end of the block. Get out my car.
Keep it up. Keep it up. You gonna get out this car and you gonna be left in the spot because I'm driving, right? That's that logical thinking. I'm driving
Yeah.
this vehicle. And the soul is sure thing. Feel free. Go right on ahead.
You'll be back.
You'll be back.
You'll be back.
I'm gonna sit back here. I'm gonna be quiet.
I'll be
Since you are
quiet.
threatening, since
I'll
you
be
threatening
quiet.
to kick me out,
I'll be quiet, but when you leave, I'll be talking again.
it's fine. Go ahead. I'm trying to help you avoid that brick wall. But since you want to use your logic to go through that brick wall when we could obviously get further if we just go around it,
Yeah.
you want to run through that problem. I'm trying to lead you around that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often, Sapphire, do we wake up and we want to tackle the problems? We want to take the problems by the neck, do a chokehold with it, and say, "You gonna stop? You gonna stop?"
Put a Ric Flair on them.
But if you slow down and you be in the moment and you look at what you're dealing with and choosing to go with what feels right instead of what your anxiety is dictating for you to do, instead of what all the negative emotions are dictating for you to do, instead of what the scarcity mindset is dictating for what you to do, how about we actually have a consultation with our souls? Because our souls may say something like, don't none of that shit matter. Don't none of it matter. And if a lot of times, if you put an extreme thing up against whatever it is you're dealing with, you might even logically come to the conclusion that these things don't matter,
They don't matter.
right? Because it's like in the grand scheme of things, if someone does something that you feel unjust, rather menial. When I say menial, like I noticed that there's a lot of hypersensitivity around where I am. Like, why are they driving down the street? Why are they making a U-turn on my Lord? Why are they dropping it? Like, it gets interesting, right? And then I'm like, I don't really care because as long as they keep it moving, I don't have to deal with that particular individual anymore. Sometimes I feel like we are pulling people that we don't like into our vibration, right? Into our area because we feel that we've been wrong in some kind of way. And rather than saying, in the grand scheme of things, of, of what's called my life, is holding that person accountable, which in my opinion is really just revenge. Okay. We call it holding them accountable, but in the is holding certain people accountable for things that in the grand scheme of things don't really matter is where you really want to spend your time? Is that really the way you want to live your life? Last week you talked about, or last episode you talked about time being the only commodity that we have. So one thing I can't get back. You might have had that in an offline conversation with me. They're starting to run together, Sapphire Star. They're starting to like the private, the green room, and the podcast has officially done this in my mind. Now I don't even know when we talked about something.
We know we talked about it.
We know we talked about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to apologize to you all up front. And I can't even say that it's going to get corrected
And
as the episodes go on. I'm going to refer to stuff, conversations that I've had with this woman, and I'm going to make it sound like y'all were there.
And let us know in the comment section. Wait a minute. What was this? Let us know. And we'll be sure to do our best to expound more, to give you more, because we want to include you in all these conversations
Yeah.
that we are having and making sure you have clarity while you're listening to the Soul Shift podcast. Can I add a fourth thing to your balance
Hey,
steps?
4 still sounds simple, so please do.
Yes, yes. I would like to add to the slow down, the be intentional, you have with choice. I want to add let it go. Learn to let it go. Elsa in Frozen says, "Let it go. Let it." That is
No,
so liberating.
it is.
It will set you
It
free.
you know, just so you know, when that movie came out, my children, specifically the youngest one, was all about Frozen. But
Yeah.
Imma tell you right now, when she decides to do that and she does the little thing and changes her outfit, I was like, "Yes.
That
Yes, yes, respect."
yes. Yes.
And even in that story, even in her process of her being her I almost was gonna say her unadulterated self, like her even then you still see that there's some stuff that Elsa gotta work out. Even though she's freed up to be who she wanna be, there's still some pent up aggression
Yeah.
that still has to be worked out. The
And just
chick froze a town.
yeah, and just because we're telling you these things to persevere, it doesn't mean things are going to stop happening. But how beautiful is it to go now you're like, "Bring it on," because I have the tools. I
Yeah,
have what it takes. I have in my mind what's gonna happen to me on the other side because I am taking charge. Carpe
yeah,
diem. I'm taking charge of my life. So bring it on.
bring it on, bring it on. Alright, but there is one thing I wanna add. Because for me, it's all fine, well, and good to say, like, all right, here are the particular steps. I want to offer up that there is a physical thing that I typically will do if I am having a challenge, especially in the area of negative emotion and negative thoughts. And I hope that I'm hoping I haven't even had this conversation with Star Gang. I'm open. Well, who knows at this point? There's no telling what we've talked about.
It's no telling.
I listened to this one audio, and the person that was speaking was talking about a river, how a river flows in a particular direction. And what we tend to do is we will take our kayak or our raft and we'll put it in the river and then we'll begin paddling upstream. And she uses that as a metaphor for emotions. And all the negative emotions are upstream and all the positive emotions are downstream. And she'll say that we'll get in there and we'll paddle because life is supposed to be hard. Because if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. And the great things only come to the ones who have suffered and struggled and all this stuff. And when you think about a kayak in a river that's flowing in that direction, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially if the destination is that way. If the destination is that way, why are you paddling that way?
Sure.
Why are you doing that? It takes effort. It you never win, right? Because you don't beat the river, right? The river is going to do what it does. It's going to take you. So why not turn your boat around and go with the flow? And every time you are thinking negative thoughts about someone who wronged you, every time you feel like you got to get back at someone, every time you feel like you have to, and I'm using this when I say justice, I'm not talking about the egregious things that people experience. I'm talking about when, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, but yet we treat it like it does matter. Like I have to get back at this person. I have to hold them accountable. And like all of that is paddling upstream. The thing is, how do I find the next better feeling thought? And that's what I want people to do is look for the next better feeling thought. Now, sometimes people mishear me and they think that, well, if I'm feeling bad, I need to just say that I'm feeling good because bad is on this side of the river and good is over here. And we can't jump that far. But if I'm feeling a certain way about a person, like maybe I'm highly pissed off and angry, there is a better feeling thought and emotion that's a whole lot closer to angry. Maybe it's annoyed. Maybe I'm not really as angry as I think I am. Maybe I'm just really annoyed because of, but I don't want to stay at annoyed. I want to continue to find what's the next better feeling thought. Maybe I'm annoyed because there was a miscommunication, which has me frustrated. See, I can go from anger to annoyed to frustrated a whole lot easier than I can go from angry to happy.
So true. So true.
So that's that is the physical process that I physically take myself through, which is deliberately looking for the next better feeling thought. Because I find a better feeling thought, then the emotions will feel better, which will cause the mind to look for the next better feeling thing, right? Because if I think a bad thought, if I think a bad thought, then I'm gonna have bad feelings. And then the bad feelings are gonna cause more bad thoughts. So what if we change that? What if you look for next better feeling thought, which will cause the emotion to feel a little bit better?
I love that. I
And then
love
we just keep step by step going down the river.
Well said. Well said.
Had we
Said
talked about that before?
no, we haven't.
Okay. Whew.
This is my first this has been premiered, guys, with you and me all here. This is exclusive conversation, and you guys have been privy to be a part of it. And I think that's a great place to end this episode, persevering when shit happens, and another episode of Soul Shift Sessions podcast, where we do a deep dive into transformational conversations to help you get out and beyond your limitations, to help you expand your thoughts and your mind to live the best life that you deserve. I'm Coach Sapphire Star, and with me is transformation architect
Kyle McLeod.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you subscribe to our podcast and leave comments in the comment section. And please share. If you know someone who's ready to have their soul shifted, please share the content. We thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Soul Shift Sessions podcast, where we dive deep into transformative conversations that empower you to elevate your mindset, break through limitations, and create the life you truly desire.
Hosted by Coach Sapphire Star and Coach Kyle McLeod, this podcast is your go-to source for actionable insights, inspiring stories, and expert advice on personal growth, financial freedom, and living with purpose.
Each episode is designed to help you shift your mindset, overcome obstacles, and embrace a life of abundance and fulfillment. Whether you're looking to transform your relationship with money, enhance your well-being, or unlock your full potential, the Soul Shift Sessions will guide you on your journey.